This is for my fellow socially anxious people here. What is your biggest fear when it comes to socializing with people? I'll tell you guys mine. It's the fear of standing out. It's the fear of messing up. The fear of making a complete fool out of myself. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think a lot of people with social anxiety will agree to this, that our biggest fear is fear of judgment. We fear judgment. So instead of speaking out, of getting uncomfortable, we stay silent. We prefer to blend in. And what it all comes down to is how much we care. We care too much about what other people think of us. I spent my entire life caring about what other people thought of me. And so in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about that. I want to share with you how I stopped caring, or how I started caring less. Now, before we get into the video, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Bridget. On this channel, I talk a lot about social anxiety. I talk about introverts, I talk about the books I'm reading, I talk about other mental health related issues. So if any of that interests you guys, make sure you check out some of my other videos as well. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I spent my entire life caring about what other people thought of me. I think my entire social anxiety journey, I spent most of those social situations that I considered super scary just really thinking about what other people would think of me if I did this. When I was growing up, it really started in my schooling years. That's when my parents really started to see that it was actually an issue. And for those of you who don't know, who haven't watched any of my videos, I've talked about my journey with selective mutism, which is basically a hyper manifestation of social anxiety. And I go into that in a lot of detail in a couple of my videos, so I'll link one of those up here if you guys want to check that out. But that selective mutism kind of manifested itself into just general social anxiety. And so my social anxiety, I think at its peak, was during those very formative years, those early years. And my biggest concern in school was standing out. I did not want to stand out. I didn't want to ask questions. I didn't want to be the first to raise my hand in class. I didn't want to speak in class at all. I didn't want to do some crazy trick during recess or during PE class. I just preferred to stand in the background, blend in, and not worry about what other people thought of me if I did do that. And that's the thing I think with a lot of us dealing with social anxiety, you want to do the crazy things. I think I'm finally at a place in my life where I guess I sheltered myself for so long, caring about what other people think. Now I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum, wanting to do all those crazy things and wanting to show off and wanting to put myself out there more and get very comfortable, or rather get very uncomfortable. And it was because for so long I stopped myself from doing all those fun things that I really wanted to do, but I couldn't, because I was scared what other people would think of me. And it's so weird to think about, because even when I was in that crazy headspace, I don't really know how to put it, when I was thinking about not wanting to do it so much and doing anything I could to not stand out, I still looked at the other kids. And yeah, sometimes they would mess up, sometimes they would make a fool of themselves, but I never once thought to myself, oh my God, they look like an idiot. Oh my God, I can't believe they just did that. Oh my God, how embarrassing for them. That thought literally never crossed my mind. I thought instead, how cool. I wish I could do that. And yet in my mind, I thought if I had done that, I would look like a fool. I would stand out. I would look like this giant idiot in front of the class. But I never thought about those people that way. And so it's so interesting. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that we create these scenarios in our head, right? All of that fear was something that I put in my head, something that I inhibited myself from doing, right? I wasn't putting myself in those situations. I wasn't asking questions. I wasn't going out of my way to make friends, to do fun things, to do crazy things, because I was so fearful. And it's not because that could have actually happened. I mean, maybe on the off chance, the rare chance it might have happened. Happens to everyone once in a while. But it was because I just literally made up this entire scenario in my head, and I convinced myself it was true. I convinced myself I was this sole person who, if I did something, that everyone would be looking at me. And I talked about this concept on a few of my videos talking about social anxiety. It feels as though everyone's eyes are on you at all times. And it's so not the case. One of the biggest lessons I've learned throughout this whole journey, and it's not something I learned until probably just a few years ago, or I guess I knew it, but I didn't really fully grasp it. Nobody cares. And I don't know why it took me so freaking long to get this, to understand this. I wish somebody blew this into my ear growing up, because it's so true. Now that I'm adult, now that I've conquered some of these fears, and I talk about overcoming social anxiety in plenty of my videos, so make sure you go check those out. Now that I've conquered some of these fears, now that I'm feeling a little bit more willing, a little bit more open to getting uncomfortable, I realize that nobody's watching you all the time. In fact, probably nobody is watching you, like, ever. Nobody has the time, except for those stupid internet trolls that sometimes just seem to have all the time. In your day-to-day life, outside of the internet, let's say, really nobody's watching you. Really nobody cares. Because if you saw someone on the street, they tripped on the street, you would maybe think about that for 30 seconds, right? You either feel bad, maybe you make fun of them if you're really a jerk, but you're over it in 30 seconds. In their head, they might be thinking about it for the next hour. If they're anything like me, they might be thinking about it for the next 30 days. Another one, if you're at some kind of event, you're talking to a bunch of people, they're messing up, they're stumbling over their words, but majority, they're making sense, right? But they have a few mess ups here and there. Or maybe they're a little shy, maybe they're a little bit in a shell, kind of. You're not really thinking about it too much. As long as they're making sense, as long as they're giving good points, as long as they're making you laugh maybe, making you smile, and you overall enjoyed the conversation, you're not thinking about it. But on the other hand, that person maybe has social anxiety. Maybe in their head, they're thinking that that conversation was one of the worst conversations they've ever had. Because maybe they stumbled over their words. Maybe they didn't speak the points that they wanted to speak because they were too embarrassed. Right? I run into those situations all the time. Mostly on the other end, the one with the social anxiety. But the other person in the situation is never thinking about it as much as you are. It's all something we create in our head. So remember that next time. Drill that into your brain. All the people you think that are looking at you, that are thinking about you, that are making fun of you, just imagine if it were flipped. Would you be having those feelings about someone else? Most likely not. So why, not to sound like selfish or narcissistic a little bit, but why make it all about you? Why think that you're so special that people are always watching you? That people care so much when they don't? I wish I knew that. I wish I told my younger self that. Because truly, if I had known that when I was younger, it would make the world of a difference. The next point I want to make is about the people who we surround ourselves with. And I think this is just a concept in itself that applies to so many different facets of life. But with social anxiety, for me, it's something that's been super helpful. I talk about this with the way I make connections. Having surrounded myself with a lot of extroverted people has been super helpful. But when it comes to caring less, I've intentionally surrounded myself with people who literally do not care at all. I mean, they care obviously to some degree, but I've intentionally surrounded myself with people who are at that place in life or just grew up with a mindset of just do what you want. Don't care about what other people think of you. Because the more time you spend thinking about that, the less time you have to actually do the things you want to do. My husband is a perfect example of this. For the entirety of the time that I've known him, he has been that carefree, ambitious, outgoing, super friendly, just doesn't care about what anyone thinks of him. He'll say the craziest things in conversations. He'll do the craziest things in public. And sometimes I cringe. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting secondhand embarrassment. And I think too many times I've definitely put my own past mindset into it, and I feel bad because I'll say things like, why would you do that? You look so stupid. You're embarrassing me. And you even think about it now, it's just like, ugh, why do you say that to him? Why try to put out his spark? Because that's truly something that I wish I had, right? But we're all different. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses, yada, yada, yada. I get it. But that's why I surround myself with people who sometimes are a little bit opposite from me, because I learn so much from them. I've learned so much from Quasi, and I'm thankful to have him because he teaches me every day how to care less, especially when it comes to socializing with people. I obviously share my strengths with him and I teach him things, but it's so important for me in my life to have that kind of person. I have it in my friendships and other relationships in my life as well. And I do it intentionally because it helps me. It's not just like a one-way kind of thing. I give where I can too. But I think who you surround yourself with definitely makes a difference in what you're trying to achieve in your life. So if you are trying to care less, take a look at who you are surrounding yourself with. Are you surrounding yourself with the people who also care too much? It's okay to keep them in your life, but maybe look in other areas, in other relationships you have. Integrate as much of that carefree energy as you can while still, staying within your morals and your values and beliefs. But allow yourself to absorb what is opposite from you because it can have so much benefit in your life. So that is all I have for you guys today. Watch this video again and again and again, and don't forget, nobody cares. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed and found it useful as always, and I will see you next time. Bye.